got all your top 25 picks ready to roll. Let's start off with TCU and Kansas. Kansas is on a mission. 5-0 already. Their win total for the season, they're number 19 in the country. Their win total was 2.5. Lines up to 6.5. I think they're a live home dog against TCU, who's coming off a huge win. Definitely line value in this one. Public's all over TCU. Line's gone from 4.5 to 6.5. I'm taking Kansas plus the points. Michigan, they're playing Indiana. Can't really back Indiana. Their defense gives up way too many points. If Nebraska can score 35 on Indiana, Michigan can score 50, 60 points on Indiana. I have to lay it with Michigan. Not a huge play, but Michigan would be the right side. LSU, Tennessee. LSU's played very well since their opener against Florida State. The line looks very, very trappy at just 3. I'll take LSU at home as a live dog. Mississippi State, the line is ballooned all the way up to 9.5. You had to get this one in early. I would have to side with Mississippi State. Cincinnati, really no play on Cincinnati in this one. I'm not laying 26. Not really interested in that one. The Oak State Texas Tech game, that's pretty interesting. Texas Tech, I don't know if they can keep up with Oklahoma State, but this line's kind of fishy. Moved up to 11 early, then back to 9. There's a lot of sharp action on Texas Tech. They played a much tougher schedule, and Oak State's coming off of a big road game against Baylor. They could be flat. I'd have to side with Texas Tech plus the 9. That 9-10 area point spread's very, very tricky sometimes. Utah and UCLA, a lot of money, early sharp money on UCLA this week. Surprising since all the sharp money was on Utah last week. Utah hasn't really played a big opponent like this, and they're at UCLA, and I think UCLA gets another W here. They won against Washington, and they get another W here against Utah. I think it's a surprise. Georgia and Auburn, really not interested in laying 28. Georgia would have to be the right side. Definitely not backing Auburn off the road. They're coming off a deflating loss last week against LSU, and Auburn's really not that good. Georgia could put up a ton of points and blow them out, and they're due to cover anyway. Washington, Arizona State. Arizona State looked pretty good last week against USC, but asking them to really play back-to-back good games is really asking a lot, and Washington's a much superior team. Would have to lay it with Washington. Mississippi, minus the, what is 16 now. They beat up on bad teams. They struggle with the good teams. They don't cover against good teams. Last week against Kentucky was an example, but they should take care of business pretty easily here. Wake, it's been underrated all year. They get Army. Army's very overrated this year. They haven't played anybody, and they've lost to Coastal Carolina, and I think they just got blown out last week against Georgia State by 17. Wake Forest should take care of business. I'm not really interested in laying that many points at 17. So, but I would have to say Wake Forest in that one. BC and Clemson. Clemson got a huge game next week at Florida State on prime time. This could be a very big letdown spot for Clemson, and 21 may be too high in this game. The line should be around there, but I would have to take Boston College if I played that game. Iowa State looks like a trap, especially after Iowa State lost to Kansas last week. Looks like a very low line, real trappy line here. I would have to say Iowa State plus the points. USC, they wake up for this one, I think. They're back-to-back home. They got to really make a big win for pollsters. They didn't get the cover last week against Arizona State, but they do get back-to-back home games. Washington State really hasn't played anybody. They've only played one road game this year at Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's really not much. So USC definitely over Washington State. South Carolina, Kentucky, real weird line move on this game. Currently in a circle as well. It opened 11. Right now it's sitting at 6. Kentucky at home, who's coming off a big game last week. So this line's real fishy at 6. Would have to take South Carolina. Well, I'm not even touching this game, so but if I had to, I'd take South Carolina just looking at the line. BYU, Notre Dame, real tough game, probably one of the toughest on the board, but I would have to back Notre Dame, I think, in this one. BYU's really overrated, I think, and Notre Dame's at home. Would have to take Notre Dame, but really not playing this one. Florida State, I think Florida State bounces back here and gets a straight-up W at NC State. I don't like how NC State played last week. They're coming off a big game against Clemson. They could be flat. I like Florida State in this spot. Alabama keeps covering. They keep covering ATS each week. They covered again last week against Arkansas, but really not interested in laying 24. The value's gone anyway. It opened 22.5. It's up to 24. 24 and a half would have to pass. And then Arizona, Oregon, real tough game to call. Both teams will score big. It opened 66 and a half the total. It's up to 70 and a half. Arizona could be live as a dog at 13. Or I don't know much about these two teams and probably would stay away. But that's your top 25 rundown for this week. We've done very well in the top 25 each and every week on the previews. Let's get them again.